Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to this session of our Islam Study Circle. The Quranic verse that we are going to discuss today is verse 216 of Surah Baqarah, the second surah of the Quran, and it reads: وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ وَعَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And it may well be that you may dislike a thing even though it is better for you. And it may well be that you like a thing even though it is bad for you. And God knows the reality, but you do not. This Quranic verse actually occurs in the context of jihad in Surah Baqarah. However, it is also something which spells out a general principle and a very, very important guidance vis-a-vis human life. We often get disappointed, we often get frustrated because we don't get our own expectations fulfilled. At times we are faced with results which really dismay us. It is here that this verse actually comes to our rescue and tells us that many a time we may dislike a thing, but there is some good hidden in it. And similarly, many a time we may like a certain thing to happen, but there is something evil hidden in it. And look what the verse says at the end: وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. That God knows and human beings do not know. And therefore they have to trust God come what may. They have to realize that as far as the Almighty is concerned, He is a well-wisher of His creation. And if there is some trial or test hidden in the life of a believer, then it is meant to make him fly even more higher. It is meant to at times shield him from bigger miseries. It is meant at times to provide him with the opportunity to come closer to God, to become much more patient and thereby increase in stature, in character. So what needs to be understood here is that what we are facing in life is always a source of either bother for us, or it is a source of making us really sad and making us really uncomfortable. So the verse says that, of course, the understood part of the verse is that we have to do what best we have to do, or what best we can do. But once we have done what we best could have done, we have to understand that the remaining portion or the remaining part is now up to God. As they say, man proposes and God disposes. So we have to actually do what best we can do. And if the results are not to our liking, we have to understand that God has another plan for us. And it is here that it is said, وَأَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, that you may dislike a thing, but it will prove to be of good to you, and vice versa as well. And viewers, the best judge and the best litmus test of this verse, I'm sure all of us have gone through a lot of situations in life when in hindsight we look back and see that whatever happened for the best. If something did not happen that we wanted to happen, it was for the best. And if something happened that we did not want to happen, again, it was for the best. So in hindsight, we always find that at times when we change our path or we are forced to change our path, it is because the Almighty wants us to trust Him, to see if in spite of all our efforts, if something else is coming our way, we have to realize that this is God's will, that this is something which we all have to understand. And I have given, I think, this example many times in our previous discussions, that there was a case in which a person was boarding a flight and he got delayed. And he had a very important meeting to catch, and of course he was expecting some huge dividends from that meeting. But because he got delayed, he could not board the plane. The authorities asked him that he is now late. He tried his best, he argued and he quarreled, but nothing happened. And ultimately, news came in an hour after the departure of the flight that the plane had crashed and all on board had died. So you see, a person never knew that it was a flight of death that God had actually saved him from. He was thinking that he had lost a lot of money, but God's thinking was that he has actually saved his life. So you see, it's a question of trusting God. Of course, when we say trusting God, it does not mean that we are not doing what we are required to do. So that is another important thing, that we have to do what best we can do. We have to do our share of work, and only then we will realize that what God has ordained for us is something. If it comes up to be different from our own expectations, then we have to look into it. We have to try our best to be people who understand this, and therefore this is something that life continues to offer us. It gives us these opportunities, and it gives us these opportunities so that we can test our faith in God, not get disappointed. Of course, we do get disappointed, but disappointment should not get the better of us. It should not bog us down so much that we, for days and days, just are just inflicted with that state of denial in which we continue to brood and complain. That should not be the case, and we must move forward in life. Whatever happens, we must always realize happens for the best. And what further we should realize is that what has happened, what has been done, cannot be undone. It is now past. We have to look ahead and look at new opportunities. Also, of course, realize our own shortcomings. Also realize if there is something wrong in our own planning. But at the end of the day, we have to trust God that if adversities come our way, then there is a certain plan of God that we have to follow. And if good things come our way and we don't expect certain bad things to befall us, then again there is some reasoning behind it. Because now we go on to the next part of our study circle, and this is the hadith verse of the day. It has been selected from the Al-Jami al-Sahih of Imam Muslim, and the words are, it's titled as Cleanliness. I have given it this title. So the words, it is reported from Abu Malik al-Ashari. An Abi Malik al-Ashari قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الطهور شطر الإيمان. So Abu Malik al-Ashari stated that God's messenger said, cleanliness is part of faith. And again, we have to understand how important and how significant divine religions always speak about our own personal cleanliness. It is something that we have to understand. Physically clean is a person who will be clean morally also. A person who is physically clean will keep his thoughts clean as well. A person who is physically clean will always keep his environment clean as well. So it's not just mere cleanliness. Look what the Prophet has said, that it is part of our faith to remain ritually clean, to remain clean in a number of ways. Of course, it's not just all about dressing up in a way that we have new clothes or branded clothes all the time. No, we have to wear clean clothes. We have to look clean. And the important aspect here is that we have to be careful in our environment also. We must not spread filth in our environment. We must not dirty our environment, because we as human beings are prone to dirt and filth at times, because when we are engrossed in our work, when we become careless in our routines, we tend to give up on certain, I would say, premises which are very important for our own life, and one of them is cleanliness. And this is also very important because at times people who get involved in religion, they go so deep down that they forget about their appearance, they forget about their physical cleanliness, and they are people who start wearing dirty clothes. They'll start living in a dirty environment, and it's not much of a take if one comes to realize that we have to clean ourselves, we have to wear clean clothes. All these things are under our own authority and control. So cleanliness, as they say, is next to godliness, and this is precisely why it is said. And look how ritual cleanliness in our religion is given such certain special importance. So when we pray, we have to be in a state of wudu, which of course is ritual cleanliness. Similarly, there are certain things which break our wudu, and passing the wind, or call of nature, or similarly having sexual intercourse with the wife, or the sexual emission of that nature. All of these things break our wudu, and this also tells us that anything which is closer to our animal instincts, and if it somehow features in our lives, then we have to come out of that by becoming ritually pure. So, such is the importance of cleanliness, and unfortunately, we disregard this directive so much that we don't realize that it's not just ritual cleanliness that is required, it is physical cleanliness of all forms. And foremost, as I said, is to have a clean house, is to have a clean bedroom, is to have a clean environment, is to make arrangements that cleanliness is something which becomes part of our daily lives. Viewers, with this, I go on to the next part of our study circle, and this is the Bible verse of the day. And I've selected it from the Gospel of St. Matthew. It is chapter number 6, verses 22 and 23. And the title that I have given these verses is Eye is the lamp of the body. So the verses read, "The light of the body is the eye. If then your eye is true, all your body will be full of light. But if your eye is evil, all your body will be dark. If then the light which is in you is dark, how dark it will be." So it's like virtually saying that we have to guard our eyes. We have to put a sentinel on our guide. We must understand that eyes are a source of data which is outside, and we see what is outside, and it affects our hearts. You see, whatever we see and view, it is something which enters our mind, it enters our soul, it enters our feelings. And if we abstain from evil and vulgar things, especially in sight, and of course today with the advent of internet, pornography is something which has become so rampant, and it has become very easy and accessible, and it's just a click away. So in all these circumstances, we have to be extra careful. We have to realize that, as Jesus has said, that the light of the body is the eye. If the eye is lit up, our body will be lit up. If the eye is dark and blind, our body will be blind. If the eye sees something filthy, our inner feelings will become filthy and vulgar as well. So vulgarity is something which starts by the eye. It starts with the eye, and we have to make the best out of it. And the Quran also has given us this directive, as we see Jesus here giving it to us, that we have to guard our gazes. It says that يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ, that we must not let our eyes take undue liberty and stare at the opposite gender. Precisely this is what Jesus is telling us here, that our eyes have to light up our body, and if we start seeing good things, it will have a very, very serene effect on our own inner soul, on our own person, on our own character and conduct, and we will become individuals who actually relish these things. So remember, we have been told to become purified individuals, and purification starts with the eye. If we are not pure in the eye, we get contaminated in vision, and then all sorts of things, they start entering our minds, and we get distracted very easily. So we have to realize that eyes are the lamp of the body. If we have really lit up this lamp, we will realize that our own person has been lit up by the glorious and of course the majestic insight which God has given us. So it's that God-given insight which actually helped Joseph as well when he was actually lured away in his times by his mistress, or by the person who was the wife of his master. So mistress is spoken in the word of the wife of his master, and it was God who actually helped him. And the Quran says, لَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَنْ رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ, that he would have fallen for her and she would have fallen for him had he not seen this God's great inside Burhan. And Burhan, of course, is something which is that inner light here. So if we guard ourselves, God protects ourselves in situations that might get out of control. So if we do our best, we become deserving of God's help. And this is what happened with the Prophet Joseph, and I'm sure even today, if people exercise this patience, this self-control, this self-discipline, whenever chances come in which there is a chance that a person might slip away, it is here that the Almighty comes down and He really helps that person because he did his best, and now it was something which was beyond him, and there it is, the Almighty actually assists and helps that person in surmounting and in actually overcoming evil. We now come to the fourth part of our study circle, and this is the discussion topic of the day. And of course, it is here that we perhaps can have various opinions as well. And the topic here is a defining moment of our life. Of course, this was meant to be discussed with people who are present in such sessions, but in our current scenario, it's not always that possible. But I would say that even if it is not possible, please do always remember that the life that we have spent up till now, of course, God, whatever God's will is regarding our life is going to happen. We're going to get the life that the opportunity that we have. But till now, everyone should realize that he or she must have passed through a defining moment in life. A very defining moment, which of course means that it would have shaped the course of his or her life. And it is important to realize that that moment is something which has passed us, because it actually tells us that the opportunity that we actually cashed at a certain point of time really helped us in our course. We were treading on a different path. We might have been going in a zigzag way, but all of a sudden something happened. A defining moment came along. Some big decision was made, or even if it is not made, it might have been thrust upon ourselves. It might have been something which we did accidentally, but then that whatever we did, it converted into a defining moment. It converted into a moment that changed the pattern of our lives. It changed the course of our lives. We became a different person. So this is how we have to understand that the amount of potential which each human being has is huge, is tremendous. A human being is like a universe in itself. It has so many inner and latent abilities that today even we don't know the amount of potentials and abilities even a human brain has. So this is one of the things that we have to realize, that these defining moments tell us that not only at times God helps us and we prove ourselves worthy of His help. What happens is that these defining moments make us into a different person. They, as we can see, it has happened in the lives of so many outstanding people. If you study the lives of outstanding people, of brilliant people, of people who have really made their mark in history, you would realize that there came a defining moment in their lives. And it is as if they earned that defining moment by their hard work or by their commitment or by their zeal, telling us that we can also earn those defining moments in life, which of course manifest themselves in the form of some strange form of God's help. It is as if we are struck in a very strange way, and we are deflected to a direction that we might not have at first cherished, but suddenly it was like a miracle. Suddenly it was something which really changed our lives for the better. So let us keep remembering that if our lives have gone through these defining moments, then we need to thank God, and we need to reevaluate if those defining moments have really made us think that what we have done or achieved in life, are we also paying back to the society that we live in, so that they also realize that people who have these defining moments, they are not selfish people, they are selfless people, they are people who think of others, and they are people who also realize that life is a form of huge opportunity which God has given us. If we are not happy, only we ourselves to blame, because the amount of opportunity and the amount of happiness that we can have simply by controlling our own thoughts, simply by letting our own attitude go in a specific direction, is in our control. So it's a very wise thing which some people have said, that if we are not happy, then only we are to blame, because happiness is something which starts with your own thinking, and you can control your own thinking if you become a grateful individual, if you make other people happy, if you think that these defining moments of your own lives are a blessing of God. They are a boon of God, and they have really made a difference in our lives. So viewers, with this I come to an end to this study circle, and if there are questions, I'm just going to open your mic. I don't see any hands being raised. However, if there is a person who would like to ask a question, please.
Can I ask a question?
Please go ahead. Yes, please go ahead.
Doctor, I want to mention to you that about a few days ago, I was in the bazaar buying something, and somebody stole my wallet, and I lost all my cards, my bank cards, my original ID card, and in 10 minutes after it was snatched, I get a message from UBL that whoever had taken it had spent 40,000 in one shop, in one watch shop, and then another 6,000 another watch shop. So obviously, it was a big blow to me. And then now, of course, reporting it to the police, you know how difficult it is in this city. Finally, the CCTV cameras, the film, showed these women in burqas who were in the shop and buying the watches. My question arises that if unless this is all made up, how can anybody do this to anyone, steal my money and then spend it so calmly, and on top of it you're wearing a burqa, because one would think that you are a religious person if you're wearing a full burqa, or maybe it's not like that. So I wanted your input on this.
So you see, people who steal, they adopt all sorts of garbs, they adopt all sorts of appearances so that they can appear innocent, and of course they want to deceive people. So deception is one of the ways in which people work when they want to steal. And I understand the amount of agony that you might have gone through. Of course, it must have distraught you and really bothered you. But Alhamdulillah that you remained safe physically. So whenever you suffer a loss, always realize that it could have been much worse. You see, it is not always money which is lost. There are so many instances in which such things end up in killing people. So they would snatch something from a person of a very ordinary nature and then even kill that person. So I think it's a matter of gratitude that you remained safe, and I do understand that it was agony for you. It was a lot of pain and bother, but do realize that that God saved you, and your life was much more important than the money that you lost. So again, it's the question of the attitude that a person has, that even when one loses something, one has to realize that something bigger could have been lost, and God saved us from that. So I think we have to learn lessons, and one of these is that we must realize that at times when we are put through such bother, the Almighty wants us to realize that there are still a lot of things that we should thank Him for. And I think if you thank Him for the fact that you actually got your life saved, your skin saved, and it could have been much worse. I mean, instead of 40,000, it could have been 4 million or even more, or whatever. So at least you were, even if you were mugged, the amount could have been much more. So on the one hand, the amount could have been much more. On the other hand, your life got saved. So again, you see, you have to see the brighter side of things, and when you start doing so, you'll realize that.
So, Dr. Shehzad, I went to these two shops, and because they belong to the same person, there was no cooperation from the shopkeepers. I said, I just want to see the trade-in slip. It is my card. Who signed it? They weren't ready to cooperate at all. And that is the sad part, that something illegal has happened. At least help out.
Right.
So now, of course, with the police involved, this is what makes me sad, that people in this country can be so cruel and ruthless that they don't care what happens to anyone.
Absolutely. So that is the sad part, and let me also tell you that it is not just in our country. This happens all over the world in various forms and things. They get out of control in spite of a good law and order situation in many first world countries. Such incidents do even happen there. But as I said earlier on, that please do thank God that He kept you safe, and He kept you actually safe and secure from not only your life, but the fact that you didn't get injured, because at times people get injured in such incidents. So I would say that the sad part is that people did not cooperate with you, and of course the sad part is that you lost some money. But then always look at the good part, and that is you're still, mashallah, here and healthy and living and still going on in life, and I think that is what counts.
Dr. Shehzad, the thing that is puzzling me is these women were in burqas. Either they are not really, that was all a pretense, or if they are really religious women in burqas, then they wouldn't be doing such a thing.
Of course, this was all a deception. You see, they just adopted these burqas to deceive you. They were never ever religious women. No human being or religious person can do this thing. They just adopted this appearance so that they could deceive people, and this goes on. If it on the other hand, you'll find people who are clean shaven. They have false beards which they wear, and just as burqas, these false beards give this impression that a person is religious and he can be trusted. So it goes on in different forms, and we have to be aware of these things. And as I said, still thank God that it could have been much worse.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So I guess there's no further question, and inshallah we'll meet next week at the same time. And until then, it is Khuda Hafiz.